Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 25 Joshua Pearce career mode. This is part 12 of the series. If you did miss the last episode, Max Verstappen claimed victory at the Austrian Grand Prix after a last lap showdown with myself, and in the end very narrowly missing out, only 2.5 tenths of a second the gap in the end. And there was a bit of controversy with a back marker which happened to be the RB of Liam Lawson, actually helping out Max Verstappen down the final DRS straight to try and aid him and protect him from any sort of extra dive bomb that I could have put on that last lap. And it was also Max Verstappen's 70th career victory. Leclerc also ended up on the podium, where maybe the one stop wasn't the strategy to be on in Austria, but we'll take a look at the driver's standings and the constructor's standings as we head into the home of Formula 1, the Silverstone Grand Prix. It is Max Verstappen extending his championship lead, 84 points over Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton moves into third position, 125 points behind. Myself in seventh, only 1 point behind George Russell. Our teammate Sonny Hayes is in ninth, 43 points behind Charles Leclerc. Red Bull, they lead the Constructors' Championship, 91 points to McLaren. Ferrari in third, 151 points behind an Apex GP. We're now into P4, 64 points behind Ferrari, and we'll jump straight to the R&D. In the aerodynamics department, we've got a major rear downforce upgrade by getting new halo design, and so this should really bump up our aero against the rest of the field, really. So since the last disappointment of trying to rush apart, we're actually just going to do a stand development on this one, because I just really want to try and make sure that this car gets upgraded as quickly as possible before any sort of possible regulation change for next season, as there's usually something that changes going into the new season, and we also want it to be on the car. So at the moment it looks like this one's going to be on the car after Belgium, which is a bit disappointing because I feel like that would be quite beneficial to have it before Belgium, but I don't want to risk it not being on the car and it failing if we rush it. But you can see there as well, with all the other aerodynamic upgrades that we've currently got in the works, if they all go onto the car, it will put our aero at least about third best on the grid, just behind the McLarens, which will be really, really good, and hopefully will make the car a much better car to be able to drive. It still does have its little quirks here and there depending on the circuit. And for the weather is looking very British at the moment. Overcast all weekend with a small chance of rain, 19% on Grand Prix Sunday. But qualifying, on the other hand, will be wet, which, based off the last few Grand Prix with a wet qualifying, it will definitely be shaking up the starting order. And nothing has changed up the top, with McLaren, ourselves, and Red Bull not bringing any upgrades this weekend, nor does Ferrari and Mercedes, so the top 5 stays the same. In Formula B, though, there are some upgrades, with Aston Martin pulling away from Williams, and that's actually the only team that has brought an upgrade. And so with that being said, let's head straight to qualifying.
Welcome along, everybody, to a venue that was built for speed. Once an airfield, now one of the finest racetracks in the world. It's qualifying day here at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix.
And well, I guess I can't expect anything less when we're in Great Britain. It is very, very wet out on the circuit, and it's actually conditions for the full wet tyres, and we make a big mistake going into the final chicane here at Silverstone, and Bortoleto actually goes through on us while we're trying to recover the car. That's how much time we did lose, and again, on the exit of the final corner, losing the rear end. So the car is extremely unstable in these wet conditions, and I'm still yet to really click into these conditions on this game. I'm just not sure if it's just I'm not figuring out the right setup, or whether if it's just different handling physics that I'm not getting used to. Again, you can see losing the rear end on exit there at the final corner, but we are finding massive chunks of time every single time we go out for another lap. And you can also take note here on the circuit, more and more of a dry line starting to appear on the circuit. As we come to the final lap here in qualifying 1, we have gone in for a brand new set of wet weather tyres and taken out a heap of fuel to try and make the car a little bit lighter, and see if we can't gain a bit of time by changing that one around to half a second gain as we go very, very wide on the exit of the final corner. And that is us all the way up to P14. So from hovering around last position for the entire session to jumping up to P14 is a very, very welcomed jump in performance. Max Verstappen goes fastest in this session by 7 tenths to Fernando Alonso. Then it's Norris in third, 1.1 seconds behind. Our teammate Sonny Hayes, he makes it through P12. He's 1.5 seconds behind. We're only a tenth behind him in P14. And unfortunately, knocked out here in qualifying 1 is Alex Albon by a tenth of a second. Then it's Isaac Hadjar ahead of Liam Lawson. The two Racing Bulls gone. Esteban Ocon, Jack Doohan, and Gabriel Bortoleto rounds out the grid for Sunday's Grand Prix. As we head to the end of our first flying lap here, we're on a set of used tyres. Well, actually, we don't have any brand new wet weather tyres now for the remainder of qualifying. We used the two only sets that we've got in qualifying 1 to try and make sure we get through. So I'm now going to have to be very careful with which set of tyres I choose to try and put the least amount of wear on at least one of them to try and maximize the grip that we can get out of them. And you can see, once again, losing the rear end, coming through the final corner there. And that is definitely losing us a bit of time as we run it to the line. But we've switched it up for a set of intermediates. We are the only driver on track at the moment and the only person who's taken the gamble for the intermediates as that dry line gets drier and drier. And it's definitely worked out. Nearly a 3-second jump. And that is us all the way up into P2. And we were definitely the only one out there. Max Verstappen, he's fastest in this session by only a tenth to ourselves. Again, the only person out there on the intermediates. Norris is in third, 8 tenths behind. And Nico Hülkenberg makes another Q3 appearance in the Sauber. Knocked out in qualifying 2. Yuki Tsunoda by a tenth of a second. Lance Stroll, our teammate Sonny Hayes in 13th. Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly, and one of the home drivers, Oliver Behrman, not making it to this final part of qualifying as Piastri goes faster straight off the bat. We're on a set of used intermediate tyres, so the set that we used in qualifying 2 to try and make sure we save a set for at least a set for our final flying lap here, and a massive moment there on the exit. So really, if there's one place on this circuit so far that I'm really struggling, it's that final corner trying to get the traction down as we run very wide heading into the chicane, and we've made a 1.5 seconds so far on this lap, so the track is getting better and better as we now put it P8, and I was going to be trying to go for one more flying lap, but unfortunately I left it a bit too late and did not get out in time. Lando Norris, though, he will claim pole position for his home Grand Prix, and it was by 0.2 of a second ahead of his championship rival Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc will line up in third, 3 tenths behind. We ended up P8 in the end, one of the home drivers, 2.1 seconds off the pace. Lewis Hamilton and George Russell also inside the top 10, P5 and P6. So 4 British drivers inside the top 10 for the start of the British Grand Prix.
Welcome everyone as you join us at a former Second World War aircraft base, now converted into one of the great motor racing tracks. Britain is one of only 2 countries to have held a Grand Prix in every year of the Formula One World Championship, and long may that continue. This is Silverstone, and this is the British Grand Prix. Straddling the border of Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire, the 18 corners of Silverstone Circuit form the 3.6-mile beating heart of Formula One. It's been reinvented over the years, with Turn 1 now the fast right-hander of Abbey, but the magic of racing is as strong here as it's ever been. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Piastri, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, and Russell, Fernando Alonso, Pearce, Antonelli, and Yuki Tsunoda, Stroll, Hayes, Carlos Sainz, and Gasly, Behrman, Albon, Isaac Hadjar, and Liam Lawson, Ocon, Hülkenberg, Doohan, and Gabriel Bortoleto rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. And alongside me today, former Formula One driver and former world champion too. See, told you I'll give you a big intro. Anthony Davidson, hello. I love being here at Silverstone. I know you do too. Mainly because we get to sleep in our own houses for a week. But what do the drivers enjoy most about this track?
Well, Silverstone's such a challenging circuit, Crofty, more so for the car than the driver, because these high-speed corners at Silverstone really test this modern-day F1 machinery to its maximum. We don't get that many times throughout the calendar. I can only think of Suzuka and Spa, maybe Qatar as well, with that high-energy cornering that you get here at Silverstone. So the drivers love throwing the car around through corners like Copse, Maggots and Beckett's, for example, and it's really influential for your lap time as well.
Radio check, please. Radio check. Right, mate, I know it's your home Grand Prix, but I want you to treat it like any other race. Let's not make any unnecessary risks, please.
P8's a pretty good starting position for this Grand Prix. Plenty of straights for us to try and utilise DRS to get us further up the field. Taking a look at the strategy, the default strategies for the softs at the start, and like in Austria, I'm not liking the tyre wear and what that looks like towards the end, so we're going to go for the alternate strategy, which puts me on the mediums, and then to the hards as we get ready for the start of the Grand Prix, and it's lights out, and we're away for the British Grand Prix here in 2025, and it is a pretty okay start in the end for ourselves. We're side by side with Antonelli, making a little bit of contact there, and we're actually going to receive a warning from the FIA for that contact, so already barely made it to turn 2 and got ourselves a warning to start off this with, and of course it had to be Kimi Antonelli. We've only been able to make contact with Antonelli really so far this season. We make it 3 wide actually, going onto the straight now, and we've jumped up to P6, so that was a really good opportunistic move to get down the inside of Fernando Alonso and George Russell. As behind us, it's already single file. Everyone found their own piece of real estate, and we get ready to go onto lap 2 for the DRS, but before we can make it to lap 2, up the front, Lewis Hamilton, one of the British drivers, he is not wanting to sit behind his teammate Charles Leclerc for very long. He goes to the inside at Stowe, and is he going to be able to make the move stick? He has to now go around the outside. Is he going to be able to get it done? No, he can't. Charles Leclerc maintains 3rd position ahead of Lewis Hamilton, but Hamilton, he is desperate, so desperate to make it in front of his teammate. Now, to the inside at Copse. There's history here for Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. They've battled through here before, and this time, Leclerc gets the battle of Lewis Hamilton, and they will maintain their 3 and 4 position. But behind him, Yuki Tsunoda in the Red Bull. He's wanting to get himself inside the points, and behind our teammate, Sonny Hayes, trying to recover after what we could say was a bit of a poor qualifying, considering how good the car is currently meant to be. Remember, 3rd best car on paper that ours is, so a knockout in qualifying 2 is quite disappointing, as Hamilton now takes another crack at trying to get past Charles Leclerc. And just like in his first attempt, he's now going to have to look to the outside as they head into the chicane. Is he able to get the move done? No, he can't. Not just yet. He tries and tries to get it to the inside, but to no luck, he can do it. But that battle has brought us right up to the back of these 4 cars. We have now gapped Fernando Alonso. There's a full DRS gap now there for us. It's over a second. Our first objective of the Grand Prix, we need to get past Oscar Piastri, and the gap is 3/10 to him, but we're right here on the battle, so all we need is to try and get past Piastri, and hopefully that will open up the door to try and get ourselves past the 2 Ferraris. I do feel like I've got some really good pace. Once I'm in the dirty air, though, I do tend to struggle just a little bit, so hopefully a bit of clean air will improve our paces. Our teammate Hayes, he is continuing to try and battle it out with Yuki Tsunoda, but to no luck, he can still break inside the points. He'll have to sit in P11 behind the Red Bull. But in front of us, you can see that Piastri looks to the inside of Charles Leclerc to try and get himself all the way up into P4. Can he do it? He can't. We go to the inside. He's got a very bad run after trying to pass Charles Leclerc, and we'll make the move stick, and that is our objective pass. And you'll take note as well, I've completely forgot to mention this, while we were taking a look at the objective when it came up on the screen, Lewis Hamilton successfully got himself past Charles Leclerc, going through Brooklands and then Luffield, as now we close in on Charles Leclerc and catch him napping down the inside at Stowe, and that is a beautiful, very opportunistic move from ourselves, and that puts us now up into P4. And I said before that the clean air definitely feels much better with our car, so this is our opportunity to try and use this clean air to see if we can't catch Lewis Hamilton. But you can see that he definitely had the pace over his teammate Leclerc. He's pulled out 2.5 seconds, and behind us though, our teammate Sonny Hayes, he's trying to make a double overtake to get himself up into P9, but he can't make the move stick on Kimi Antonelli. He does make the move stick though on Yuki Tsunoda, but he'll have to sit in behind and try and make it through this dirty air as he heads through Maggots and Beckett's, and now out down onto the hangar straight out of Chapel Curve. He'll use the DRS, and is he going to be able to catch the Mercedes? He can. He goes down to the inside, and surely this is going to be him up into P9, but the outside line's working really well for Kimi Antonelli, and he'll also have the inside when they now come into the chicane, and it looks like our teammate, is he going to be able to get it through? I didn't think he was going to be able to get it, but he will make it onto the Hamilton straight, and that is him now up into P9. Back on board with ourselves. We're still sitting P4. The gap to Hamilton has not moved, but we have created a DRS gap now to Charles Leclerc, who's possibly now struggling on those soft compound tyres. our new objective is to stay ahead of Charles Leclerc, which should be fairly easy considering that we are now over a second ahead of him, as now race leader Lando Norris pulls into the pits, and I'm going to say this is going to be his one and only stop, the one stopper, definitely the way to go. We're on the one stopper. It was just a case of which tyre compounds you wanted to use. On board with ourselves after Verstappen. He follows Lando Norris into the lane, but we have failed the objective because with the way the pit lane works, I guess Charles Leclerc did pass us as he was going into the into pit lane, so we failed our objective. Yes, that makes sense. We failed our objective because he pulled into the pit lane and cut the final 3 corners. Great stuff. Great stuff. But we're now into the lane, and so this will be our one and only pit stop, and we'll be going onto the hard compound tyres. We have followed Lewis Hamilton into the lane, and he's gone onto the hard tyres as well. Our teammate, he'll go through, though, to claim the lead of the Grand Prix. He's staying out longer in the hope to pretty much do a sprint stint on his tyres by creating a shorter second stint. We jump onto the hards. It's a good stop, 2.4 seconds. We can see Hamilton in front of us, and very importantly, Piastri has stayed out behind us. But now the rejoin. Charles Leclerc came in a lap before us. There he is, coming through the first corner. Are we going to be able to get in front, just in front of him? Oh, but he uses his warmed up tyres to his advantage. He goes around our outside. That'll give him now the inside. And we tuck in behind him to try and see if we can't get the DRS off of him. But I've got a feeling that we were behind at the point of detection, and we were. Leclerc's got the DRS, so we're going to dump a heap of our battery, and we swing it to the outside line, and we can't get the move done. But this is actually going to be a very interesting way to play out the race now, because I don't think we've actually got the pace to catch Lewis Hamilton. You can see that he's actually gone off our mini-map. He's out of here. But my thought process is maybe we can try and mount an attack on Charles Leclerc at a moment very late into the race to try and kind of catch him off guard, try and just stick behind him and see if we can't try and cook our tyres a little bit, or make it seem like we're going to cook our tyres. But we'll do an order check here now that the pit stop phase has come to an end. Lando Norris, the home driver, is leading by 3.5 seconds. Then it's Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton rounding out the podium. The other Ferrari is Charles Leclerc. And then it's ourselves in 5th position. George Russell, Oscar Piastri, Fernando Alonso, our teammate Sonny Hayes is in 9th position. And Tsunoda rounds out the top 10. Then it's Kimi Antonelli, Lance Stroll, Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly, Oliver Behrman, Alex Albon, Liam Lawson, Esteban Ocon, Nico Hulkenberg, Jack Doohan, Gabriel Bortoleto, and Isaac Hadjar rounding out the field, and all 22 runners still in this race, 15 laps in. Oscar Piastri, though, I think he's starting to catch wind a little bit of what I might be doing, because you can see there, I'm still currently sitting inside of his DRS and not mounting an attack just yet, just trying to build up a bit of ERS and trying to just stay with him, and he gets himself past George Russell, so I reckon he's trying to make his way past George Russell to try and see if he can't get onto us, and that is not what we love to see. This is going to make me very nervous for the rest of the Grand Prix. Our teammate, Sonny Hayes, is out of the Grand Prix with an engine failure. It's gone up in smokes, and Kimi Antonelli, he will now promote himself up into the top 10 with Hayes' DNF, and on board with ourselves here, you can see that we're not losing touch with Charles Leclerc, but we're still within his DRS as Piastri. He does try and mount an attack onto us. We're wise to it though, and we managed to close the door on him on the exit of the corner, but this is really starting to spice up. I'm trying to not overtake Charles Leclerc because I don't think I've got the pace to keep up or to pull away from him, because I am currently driving at full beans. I mean, there is not much that I am holding back on. The only thing I'm holding back on at the moment is my ERS usage to try and save some, so then if I do need to defend from Oscar Piastri trying to get by us, or trying to get past Charles Leclerc in the dying stages of the Grand Prix, that I do have that amount of ERS needed to try and get something like that done. We fail, though, our latest objective of trying to burn through our fuel. So it was very marginally, though. So I'm going to call it a pass in my head, because it was only by like 0.1 kilo of amount of fuel that we ended up failing by. So pretty much we're on par with what we need to do to be burning off enough fuel to make the car light enough to hopefully mount the attack towards the end of the Grand Prix. We start the final lap of the Grand Prix. The car is all taily through turn 1, so you can definitely tell we're pushing it. We're very late on the brakes, getting it turned in. We're just making the apexes. The car is definitely now starting to get some understeer as the front tires. They're at 90 degrees, 100 degrees on the front left. So these hards are absolutely cooking. This dirty air has been roasting these tires, and I'm now definitely starting to feel the effects. Lots of understeer now in the car, but we have to try and ignore it before the rest of the lap. It's only half a lap to go, and then it's off of these tires, and we can just try and get ourselves up into this P4. The top three, though, they're gone. They've absolutely bolted as we head through cops for one last time, absolutely maximizing how far we can go onto the track and through this very fast S section, using all of the track available to us, and now back on board with ourselves. This is it. This is the DRS point, but I don't think we've made enough ground through there that I really would have liked. I'm using all of the battery that I've got left, only 13% left, but I don't want to go into absolutely nothing, or as in that would leave me vulnerable to Oscar Piastri right behind me. He's only 3/10 behind me, but Lando Norris will claim victory here in his home Grand Prix for the very first time and claim crucial points back on Max Verstappen. For ourselves, though, we have to settle for a P5. I had a plan in my head. And it just hasn't played out the way I wanted it to.
Here's the checker flag, and our winner has landoed. It's Lando Norris for victory.
To come here and take victory as a team today on home soil was so important. You can see how much it means to them. The drivers there doing their part. The team's strategy was perfect as well. And the fans really embraced that. What a great atmosphere we had here today.
And it's time for that special moment for our special three today. The podium awaits our top three finishers. He holds the trophy aloft, and why shouldn't he? A richly deserved win today for Lando Norris.
So there we have it. Lando Norris becomes a home Grand Prix race winner, and as I mentioned before, claimed crucial points against Max Verstappen on his way to hopefully his first World Drivers' Championship, or Max Verstappen's 5th world title. Hamilton keeps the streak alive by finishing third and continues the podium run alive. And yeah, for us, that P5, not really where I wanted to be. P4 was definitely on the cards, but I think P4 was definitely the maximum we could have got. The rest of the top 10 was Charles Leclerc, myself in 5th, Oscar Piastri, George Russell, Fernando Alonso, Yuki Tsunoda, and Kimi Antonelli rounding out the points. Unfortunately for our teammate, he was the only non-finisher with that engine failure, and I'm pretty sure that's actually our first DNF from a mechanical issue. I think all of my DNFs have been from on-track incidents. Max Verstappen's lead shrinks at the top of the standings to 77 points over Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton is in third, 128 points behind. Myself in 6th position, 7 points behind Oscar Piastri. Our teammate Sonny Hayes is in 9th, 55 points behind Charles Leclerc. And then Red Bull lead the Constructors' Championship by 78 points to McLaren. Then it's Ferrari in third, 144 points behind. Apex GP, we're in 4th, 81 points behind Ferrari. And our driver rating rivalry against Pierre Gasly is currently behind him in the rivalry. We need to get to driver rating level 88. And speaking of driver ratings, our experience, racecraft, awareness, and pace gained some points, but interestingly, we lost some focus, but we still maintain a rating of 85, and our driver recognition has actually remained at 55%, as now we start heading back to the HQ.
It seems as if you have a new rival. This is the perfect opportunity to show the world why you belong in this sport, and to show me why you belong amongst my very exclusive clientele. That's a joke. I love working with you.
Well, that is going to be all for this episode. You'll see there in our calendar, we do have an upgrade coming in before the Belgian Grand Prix, but that will be it for this one. We'll get onto that in the next episode. So if you did enjoy it, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time for the Belgian Grand Prix. See you then.